Good afternoon once again. Okay, today we move on to the next topic, that is the context of cryptography. So last class we had a brief introduction about history of cryptography and what do you mean by cryptography. Today we move on to the next one, what is meant by a crypto system, and here we introduce a new term called cryptology. Okay. So cryptology is nothing but a study of crypto systems, and it is subdivided into two branches, namely cryptography and cryptanalysis. So till we had a brief discussion about cryptography, right? So this is a new terminology which people are coming across. So to start off with cryptography, as we already discussed, it's nothing but an art and science of making a system which can able to provide information within a secure manner. That is only people can able to um, have the authorization alone will be allowed to send or receive the data. Right. So here, this cryptography is achieved either by using certain mechanisms. These mechanisms can be based on math, so it can be a mathematical algorithms also. Okay. So if you want to put in a nutshell, a cryptography can be considered as a large toolkit which can be used for different security applications. Right. So if you go with cryptanalysis, okay, cryptanalysis is a counterpart of cryptography. Okay, the cryptanalysis, what it says in sense, it is the art and science of breaking your cryptosystem or breaking your ciphertext. So this is a method which will be used by the attackers or hackers. Okay. They perform the script analysis to break open your system. So why this cryptanalysis is then must? Okay, it's considered a sister branch, means because if you are designing any new cryptographic techniques, okay, any algorithm or any technique, if you are proposing, we have to test the security strength of the particular technique. To test the security strength, there they will apply the script analysis method to check whether your proposed cryptographic technique is robust or not. So to make it in a simple way, cryptography means we are going to design a crypto system, whereas script analysis means you are going to break an existing crypto system. So all the cryptographic algorithm will undergo a crypt analysis before they are available for the usage of the users. Right, this is the major difference between cryptography and cryptanalysis. Right. Now we move on to security goals. So there are certain goals which have been fixed to design any cryptographic algorithm. So based on keeping these security goals in mind, then only you can able to design any cryptographic algorithm. So if your algorithm can able to meet all these security goals, then you can able to say that your system or your algorithm is highly robust to any attacks. So there are three goals. The first goal is nothing but the information which is supposed to be transmitted has to be hidden, okay, from unauthorized access. And is only authorized person should be allowed to access the data. Unauthorized persons cannot able to access the data. Access in the sense, at least he cannot able to view the data itself. So if your system is able to provide this code, then you are given a confidentiality property for your algorithm. So the first goal is a confidentiality goal, which means that you're going to hide the data from unauthorized access. Second goal is something but to protect from unauthorized change. There's a small difference between the first goal and second goal. Here we are going
So
to.
your voice is breaking.
Voice is breaking. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So if you see in the first goal, they are going to prevent unauthorized access. Whereas we consider the second goal, they're going to protect the data from unauthorized change. There is a difference between the first goal and the second goal. Here, if you're able to protect the data from unauthorized change, then you maintain the data integrity. If you are saying that I'm providing a data integrity means you are protecting your data from unauthorized change. Then the last goal is nothing but you have to make your data available to the authorized entity. So in the name of protection, you should not hide the entire data from entire set of people. Okay, what the authorized people should be allowed to access the data. So the third goal is availability. So you have to keep all these three goals in your mind while designing the any cryptographic algorithm. So it's starting from confidentiality, where you're going to protect your data from unauthorized access. Then data integrity, where you're going to protect the data from unauthorized change. Then comes availability, where you're going to protect your data. Where you're going to make your data available for the authorized persons. These are three security goals which have been designed. So if you want to say with an example kind of thing, assume that you are opening a bank account. Okay. You're opening a bank account after you joining a job. Okay. It's like your salaries are going to be credited. So the bank account, once you open, you'll be getting your debit cards, your passbook, and other stuff. Okay. Here the bank account or bank people should keep the details of a debit card, the PIN numbers, everything should be in a secured manner, right? So unless they keep this secured, they are not going to maintain the confidentiality. If they just simply give the debit card passbook and they post it in the notice board kind of thing, then there's no use at all. So they will be providing these data with you alone with a secret manner, right, in a confidential manner. So this is an example of a maintain the confidentiality of data. If you go for data integrity, so the data integrity can be said in two ways. One is the data changes should be done only by authorized entity, or we can also say in this way which we have already said, that is unauthorized change should be protected. Be always authorized one. Assume that you have already opened the account and you have a amount of 10K in as a balance now. Okay. Assume that you are getting a salary of 1 lakh and it is going to be credited. So actually, once it is credited, your account should go for 1.10 lakh. Okay. So there should be updation from this 10K to 1.1K by authorized changes. Is there, suppose there is an unauthorized person, he won't change the he won't update their salary, or he'll update wrongly, like he will say only 50K is credited. Okay. So authorized change should be done. Okay. That is, this change should be done only and only by the authorized person. Even if you're depositing some amount, if you're taking some amount, everything should be done by authorized person. In this case, the bank persons has to perform this authorized changes. Then comes availability. As I said, it should be made available to the people. So as I said, if same you have the bank account with you, they're saying that we are going to provide you confidentiality and integrity. That is, the data is going to be very secured. Okay, and the changes will be updated then and there. It is up to date. But they're saying that you can't even able to take a single rupee from your account. Even if you use your passbook, ATM card, we are not going to allow you to change any data, going to allow you to access the data, means then there is no use. So availability is something, but there should be always a constantly change in the data, but with the help of authorized entities alone. Okay. So they will be keep on changing, but it will be allowed only by the persons who are going to authorized persons can able to change it. Right. Move on to next one called crypto system. Okay, before going into this, anyone have any doubt in this security goals? If it is clear, can you raise your hands? If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Okay, thank you, Tan. Only one of you listening, it seems. Right. Next, we move on to crypto system. So a crypto system is nothing but the entire infrastructure which are going to use to implement your entire cryptographic technique. Okay. So for example, if we are using any mathematical based cryptographic algorithm, in order to make it as a implementable one, you need some software or hardware or any devices, right? So altogether, the supporting infrastructure along with the algorithm is known as a crypto system. Okay. Crypto system is also known as a cipher system. Right. Yeah. If you take a crypto system, it includes the transmitter, that is a sender, okay, and we'll be having a receiver. The intruder or interceptor or hacker will be there. Then we have the message, which is known as a plain text. You have your original message. And this is going to have some scrambling using some your mathematical algorithm called encryption algorithm, which will take a help of the key, and the secret key called as encryption key which is used to the encryption algorithm, which will give me a ciphertext, that is a secret message. Right. And the secret message is again received here, and it will be decrypted with the help of a decryption key and the decryption algorithm to get the original message back. Okay. This is the entire crypto system will look like. So if you see each and every terminologies now, that is components of crypto system. To start off with the plain text, as I said, it is the data which is need to be protected during the transmission. Then we have a ciphertext. So whenever I say ciphertext, it is a scrambled version of a plain text, and this scrambled version will be produced using an algorithm called encryption algorithm, using a specific key, and this key, encryption key, will be known only to the transmitter based on the type of algorithm we're going to use. Suppose we are going with symmetric key algorithm, the same key will be used at both transmitter and receiver. If other type of asymmetric key algorithms means we'll be using two different keys, one for encryption and one for decryption. And here, one point you people have to remember, ciphertext is not guarded. That is, once the scrambled version of plain text, which is obtained as a ciphertext, it will be directly given to the public channel. So anyone can able to access the ciphertext, though it is not guarded at all, and it always flows in the public channel. So it can be intercepted, it can be compromised by anyone who has the access to the communication channel. So you have to design your algorithm in such a way that even if people can able to see the ciphertext, they can't able to access it, or they can't able to change it. In the encryption key, as I said, it is known to sender alone. It will be used to create a ciphertext from the plain text. Next comes the encryption algorithm. So if you go for modern day cryptography techniques, it will be a mathematical process. There are certain traditional and classical techniques where more math is involved. Like best example is your Caesar cipher, right? So generally, an encryption algorithm will be a mathematical process which is going to produce a ciphertext for any given plain text and the encryption key. And decryption key, as I said, it is a known value. A value known to the receiver alone. If and only if you are using symmetric key algorithm, both encryption key will be equal to your decryption key. Okay. So decryption key will be always related to the encryption key, even if it is not equal. Okay. In asymmetric cryptography, your encryption key will not be equal to decryption key, but there will be a relationship existing between your encryption key and decryption key. That is what they're saying. Then there will be a relationship, and the relationship will be mathematical based relationship. We'll see in the upcoming minutes. But it is not mandatory that it should be always identical to each other. Decryption algorithm, this is going to again a math process. Mostly it will be an inverse of your encryption algorithm. Using a decryption key, you can able to get your plain text back from your ciphertext. Okay. So these are different components of your crypto system. Anyone have any doubt in this components? You can ask me. If it is clear, kindly raise your hands. If you have any doubts, kindly ask me. So if you put everything in a nutshell, this is how an algorithm will look like. And it will be having a plain text hex. So here in this example, they choose the algorithm called AES, stands for Advanced Encryption Standard. This AES comes under a symmetric key algorithm. Symmetric key algorithm. That's why they are using same key called K at both encryption as well as at the decryption end. So now with the input of x and key called k and algorithm, I'm going to get a ciphertext y. It is encrypted using the key called k for the plain text x. At the receiver end, I'm going to decrypt the incoming ciphertext y using a decryption algorithm, and the same key is used here and the input of the ciphertext key. So the output will be getting the x back here. Now we move on to the different types of cryptographic attacks. So if you take any cryptographic algorithm, we can able to categorize the attacks which are going to have, taken over this algorithm under two categories. One is called cryptanalytic attack. Okay. Another one is called non-cryptanalytic attack. So what does this cryptanalytic attack do in a sense? They will use their mathematical knowledge, especially they use the statistical and algebraic techniques. Okay. And they will try to analyze the entire mathematical property of your algorithm, and they will try to find the weakness of the algorithm. They'll try to find the weakness in the algorithm. Once they found the weakness, then they perform the attack at that particular point. So this will be carried out by highly sophisticated hackers, yes, with high technologies with them. Then comes a non-cryptanalytic attack. Here they don't exploit any weakness of your algorithm. Simply they perform the attack by trial and error, brute force attack kind of thing. Okay. And this non-cryptanalytic attack plays a major role, which are going to pose threat to the security goals. Among these two class of attacks, the three security goals are put under high vulnerability when it is a non-cryptanalytic attack. So if you see the taxonomy of attacks on the security goals, you can able to see the different attacks which are going to threaten the different security goals. So if you take snooping and traffic analysis, these are the two attacks which are going to threat confidentiality. I hope you remember what is confidentiality. It is the security of your data. Then comes the modification, masquerading, replaying, and reputation attack, which are going to pose threat to integrity. And we have attack called denial of service, which will be going to pose threat to availability. We will see how these attacks working on. First one is called snooping. Snooping is a thing that refers to unauthorized access to the data or interception of data. So if you are not having that much highly sophisticated encryption algorithm, the snooping attack may easily happen. So to prevent the snooping attack, you have to make your data non-intelligible. Non-intelligible means even if anyone again able to read the data, they can't able to infer any meaning from it. This is a basic attack called snooping attack. Then comes the traffic analysis. Here they don't target any information about the transmission. Simply they monitor the traffic alone. That is, they monitor the online traffic, like whether it's high memory data or low memory data, what is the type of data it is transferred, whether it is a text message or an audio file or a video file kind of thing. So based on the traffic pattern, they will try to guess the type of data based on the nature of your transactions. This is an example of a snooping. You can able to see the person here simply read the content which has been shared between Bob and Alice. Analysis is simply observe the pattern of. Then comes attacks which are going to threaten your data integrity. So first one is called modification. So modification means the attacker is going to intercept a message and change it. Then comes masquerading or spoofing. So here attacker will impersonate himself as an authentic person. Like for example, we'll see. Okay, so here the impersonification will happen in masquerading. Replaying, what the attacker will do since he will obtain a copy of message which was originally sent by a user, and he will try to replay the same message to the receiver so that he can able to get the information back. These things mostly happen nowadays with your digital money transactions. And now you go for your Google Pay, Phone Pay based, they try to replay the message and they're going to get the data and get whatever they want. Then repudiation, this is also happening nowadays in certain shops. when you pay the bill using your UPI transactions. Yeah. So what they do in sense, one of the sender or receiver will perform this attack. No need of a third party. Here either sender or receiver will do this one. What the sender, what they will do in sense, he will send the message and later he will deny that he has sent the message. And the receiver would have received the message and later he will deny that he has received the message. Especially if you pay money in the UPI transaction. Shopkeeper may say that I have not received your money. Again, you will be transacting. But originally he would have already received the money kind of thing. Said modification, the person will totally cut the link between the transmitter and receiver. He will receive the entire data, modify it, and he will send the data to Alice. Then this is one of the most interesting attack called masquerading as spoofing. Here, Bob, the intended user, will not even be there in the picture of communication between Alice and the attacker. So Darth will impersonate himself, saying that he is Bob, and he will be communicating with Alice. Then comes the replaying attack. You can able to see here the attacker is getting a message, listening the message which Bob has sent to Alice, and later after some time he will replay the message to Alice to get the information back. Then attack threatening the availability, which is denial of service. It is most common attack even these people are doing. Okay. What they'll do in sense is they'll try to slow down or totally post an interruption to the service of a system. For example, if any user is getting any service from a server, the attacker will try to attack the server by making the server very busy or simply shutting it down by using some junk data. And thereby, the server at one point of time will be say that there will be denial of service, that is, you can't able to serve the purpose. And this type of attack is called denial of service attack. So, anyone have any doubts in this one so far? Okay, it may be going very boring, but you'll jump into the algorithm. So, these are some of the basic things you people have to be clear before entering into the algorithm. So anyone have any doubts in these attacks? You can ask me. If it is clear, kindly raise your hands. Okay. We move on to other classification called passive and active attacks. Again, based on the type of attack. So passive attack, the major goal of your attack is nothing to simply he will obtain the information. He does not modify the data or he won't harm the data or harm the system. So without harming entire conversation on the system, he will simply get the data. Then active attack, he will try to change the data or he will try to harm the system. So this active attack will pose major threat for integrity and availability, and passive attack will pose threat for your confidentiality. And to detect these type of attacks, active attacks are very easy to detect because it's going to change the data or harm the system. There are certain ways where you can able to prevent these attacks and you can able to thwart it. If you want to categorize everything under passive and active attacks, we have this snooping and traffic analysis attack, which are going to pose threat for confidentiality, comes under passive attacks. Because the person is going to perform these two attacks, he is not going to change the data or he is not going to harm the system. Right? Whereas if we take other attacks like modification, masquerading, replaying, and denial of service, right? All these things comes under active attacks as well as sorry, they're going to pose threat to integrity and data availability. Right. Now we move on to our next topic called services and mechanisms. So till now we just discussed what even the attacks and how the different types of attacks are going to be happening over your cryptographic algorithm threatening the security goods. So to prevent these kind of attacks, there is a center called ITU, which stands for International Telecommunication Union. These people started providing some services. Okay. if you are able to get these services, or you can able to provide these services, then you can able to make your algorithm or system highly robust to the attacks. So this security set of services called security services can be implemented by using some mechanisms. So those are called security mechanisms and services or security services. So using these mechanisms, you can able to deploy the services in the algorithms. Okay. And both are related to each other because you can able to have a mechanism or combination of mechanisms to provide a service out. We'll see first what are services, then we move on to mechanisms. To start off with security services, International Telecommunication Union, that is ITU, they gave a standard called H.800, that is it's 800, which defines 5 services which are related to the security goals. All the 3 security goals can be saved using these 5 services. First service is called data integrity, name denotes, then data integrity, authentication, non-repudiation, and access control. So the names are almost related to security goals. You're able to see if you provide like multiple services can able to save one or more security goals. For example, if you have authentication and non-repudiation, can able to provide data integrity. If you see first one, the data confidentiality, we are going to prevent any, data, like snooping and traffic analysis attack by protecting the data. Next comes data integrity. So if you are able to provide a data integrity as a service, then you can able to protect your data from any modification, insertion, or deletion. So sometimes this modification insertion can be done either in a whole message or a part of the message also. So, but if you are able to provide a data integrity as a service, we can able to prevent these kind of changes. Then comes the authentication service. So this here authentication will be done in 2 ways. One is it will be called a peer entity authentication. So peer entity in the sense the sender and receiver have to prove themselves they are the authentic person before starting the transmission. Once data transmission is started, then they create other authentication called data origin authentication. That is, they are going to authenticate whether the source of the data is an authentic one or not. There are 2 different types of authentication. One is peer entity authentication and data origin authentication. Then non-repudiation, which is especially for preventing this repudiation type of attack. Let's say either sender or receiver is going to perform this attack, which is most vulnerable, most risky attack, we can even say, because there's no third party involved here. Simply the person who are involved in the communication itself may perform this attack. So here, to prevent this one, they're using a non-repudiation service, which is going to give a proof of origin. So the receiver of data, once he receive the data, he will be getting a proof of origin so that he can able to prove the identity of the sender if denied. Okay. Then there's a proof of delivery. Once the sender sends the data, he can later prove that the data was delivered to the particular recipient or authentic recipient with the proof of delivery data with them. Right. Access control, as I said, all unauthorized access to the data will be blocked if you are using authorized access control as a service. So there are 5 services. To implement these 5 services, again, ITU have recommended 8 mechanisms. You can use multiple mechanisms to provide one single service. So the mechanisms here are your encipherment. Till now we learned this encipherment as a cryptography, right? Then data integrity, digital signature, authentication exchange, traffic padding, routing control, notarization, and access control. The first one is encipherment. So to provide confidentiality, okay, you need to hide the data or cover the data. So you can make use of many mechanisms. Famous mechanisms are your cryptography technique and steganography, which are going to encrypt your data. That is, it's going to encipher the data, right? Thereby able to hide or cover the data. So this is one mechanism called encipherment, that is your cryptography technique. Then comes the data integrity. So this data integrity, what they will do in sense, in this mechanism, they create a short check value for each and every data transmitted. The short check value is also called as hash value. This hash value will be generated with the help of the data itself. Okay. So if you, this hash value plays a major role for your blockchain technology and your cryptocurrency. So this hash value, how securely are going to safeguard this hash value? Okay, we'll be using blockchain, and after securely saving, you will be rewarded with your cryptocurrency. This is the basic operations of blockchain. So this hash value, how the receiver will verify or authenticate this using this mechanism in sense, receiver will receive the data and the check value, because both data and check value are going to be appended and they're going to be transmitted to the receiver. Once receiver receives, let's assume that we have a message block here and we have hash value h. Okay. Now it is received at the receiver end. Receiver will break them into message and hash value. You will take a message and you will do some mathematical operation here. We'll discuss this part in the upcoming slide, and you will get other value called h dash, another hash value. So this h dash and h has to be same. If both are same, then the data serves the data integrity here. If there is a change in this one, then we will come to know that message has been changed or someone have changed the data in the message. This is how your data integrity service mechanism works. Then comes a digital signature. So here we will have a detailed discussion on digital signature in the module number 5. Right. So here the sender will electronically sign the data and receiver will electronically verify the signature. So there are two algorithms here called signing algorithm, okay, and verifying algorithm. Both will be used for verifying this one. Then authentication exchange. That is the two parties or two persons are going to transmit and receive. They will exchange some message to provide identity to each other. Like best example is like if you see old movies, the villains or people are going to exchange the drugs and other things. They will use keywords for each gang. So using the keywords exchange, they will authenticate themselves. The same concept is utilized here. Then comes traffic padding. There is traffic padding in order to mainly mitigate this traffic analysis attack. Even if you're sending a test message, you will be adding some more bogus data along with it, so that you may look your like 10 KB data, it may look like your 10 MB. So the person will think that okay, some large stuff of data is going. Okay, it's like adding some bogus data in the data traffic, so that you can able to mitigate the traffic analysis attack. Then comes the routing control. So this routing control, okay, generally speaking, if you have a transmitter here, assume we have a transmitter, we have a receiver. We take the wireless communication any method, we'll be having some intermediate nodes present between this transmitter and receivers. Okay. It's an intermediate nodes. Okay. Assume that suppose you're having data packet like 1, 2, and 3 data packets are there. So initially, if I'm transmitting first data packet, I'll be transmitting like this. Assume from here to here. Now, if I'm going with the next data packet, that is second data packet, I may use different path. Here. And third data packet, again I'll be going for shifting with some other data value. So some other route. For example, from here to here. So I'll be keep on changing the route between the sender and receiver. So it prevents an attack called eavesdropping attack. So the eavesdropping, what the attacker will do is he'll be sitting anywhere in the middle of any one between two nodes and he'll be listening. what is the communication, and he will be dropping the data packets here. So once suppose the receiver says you not receive the data packet 3, the transmitter will choose some other different route to reroute the data packet 3 again so that it reaches the receiver. This is one of the, this is how the routing control works on. Then we have notarization. The notarization here going to bring a third trusted party. That is apart from transmitter and receiver, here we'll be having a trusted third party. Assume that this is trusted third party person who will monitor the entire operation. He will be monitoring the entire operation so that they can able to prevent repetition. That is, transmitter receiver, they can't deny that they have sent the data or they have received the data. Then comes a mechanism called access control. So to provide access right to data only to the persons who are authentic and they are eligible for access. Right. So totally, these are the 8 mechanisms which we just discussed. And if you want to see the relationship between these services and mechanisms, to provide data confidentiality service, it can able to use 2 mechanisms like encipherment and routing control. Data integrity, again your encipherment comes into picture along with digital signature and data integrity. Authentication, again encipherment, signatures and authentication exchange. And non-repudiation, here they don't want to maintain the data confidentiality, simply they want to make that no one denies, means then digital signature, data integrity and notarization will provide this service. Access control will provide access control mechanism. So these are different services and mechanisms which have been framed by International Telecommunication Union to design any system. And if you follow these goals and these service mechanisms and services, you can able to create a better cryptographic environment or a ecosystem which can able to mitigate all the attacks. Anyone have any doubts in this one? You can ask. If it is clear, kindly raise your hands. Okay, then I think we'll wrap up today's session with this one.